Welcome to the Bandwich Tapes. I'm Brad Williams. Today I'm joined by Johnny Owens, a musician who has taken on the unique responsibility of preserving one of country music's most influential legacies. As the son of Buck Owens, Johnny isn't simply performing classic songs. He's carrying forward the Bakersfield Sound that helped reshape country music through Buck Owens, Merle Haggard, Don Rich, and so many others who defined that California style of country. Johnny recently released his version of the Buck Owens classic, Act Naturally. But as you'll hear in this conversation, his mission extends far beyond recording music. He's focused on creating live shows that reconnect audiences with memories, celebrate the stories behind these songs, and honor the artists who built this remarkable musical tradition. In our conversation, we explore the differences between the Bakersfield and Nashville sounds, Buck Owens' surprising connection to the Beatles, why traditional country storytelling still resonates today, and the importance of staying humble, kind, and connected to the people who make every career possible. Here's my conversation with Johnny Owens.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me. We'll make a film about a man that's sad and lonely, and all I gotta do is act naturally. Well, I'll bet you I'm gonna be a big star. I might win an Oscar, you can't never tell. The movies are gonna make me a big star, 'cause I can play the part so well. Well, I hope you come to see me in the movie. Then I know that you will plainly see the biggest folks ever hit the big time, and all I gotta do is act naturally. We'll make a scene about a man that's sad and lonely, and begging down upon his bended knees. I'll play the part, but I won't need rehearsing. All I gotta do is act naturally. Well, I'll bet you I'm gonna...
Johnny, it is such a pleasure to welcome you to the podcast, and I'm looking forward to talking with you. How are things going today?
Doing good, Brad. How are you guys doing back there?
We're doing really well, thank you. Just enjoying life and just love getting to talk with amazing people like you. So I've really been looking forward to chatting with you and your amazing family and the legacy of music that goes through the Owens family.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I really do. It's keeping the Bakersfield Sound and stuff alive is really important, and making my dad proud, of course, is huge and stuff. But when you can do all the Buck and Merle and Dwight stuff, and it's a little easier job than normal. I'm not trying to get hits. I'm not trying to be a big shot and stuff. I'm just keeping the music alive, and we throw in a little bit of Hee Haw clips and some jokes and stuff, and people are enjoying it. So that's important and stuff. As long as I can put a smile on somebody's face, or bring back a memory and stuff, that's what it's about.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate I appreciate that you see it as an honor and also a responsibility to pass that on, because there is so much about what came before us that paved the way for future musicians, and I think it should be an honorable responsibility to pass that legacy along and keep that spirit alive for generations to come.
Yeah, it is. It's here's the big thing is the people that are showing up for these shows and stuff. It brings back a memory, and if you can do that, then you win. You win that feeling. You get to feel your heart, and that's what it's about. It's to you all of a sudden start singing a song, and they go, God, I remember that song. I was in Louisiana, or I was in Mississippi, or I was in Oregon, or I was in California. or I was working at this job I hated, or I loved, one of the two. But when you can bring back a memory and it puts a smile on somebody's face, and because after the shows, I go out and I mean, I can be out there for an hour. We've been out there for 2 hours doing nothing except talking to people, because it's important for me because I get to hear stories. I get to hear stories that I've never heard. They go, hey, we were in Detroit, and he came through and played in Detroit, and that was the first time I saw him. And then of course, we watched him on Hee Haw and that kind of stuff. And we went to a Merle concert and over here and stuff. And I get to tell Marty, my good friend, who's Marty Haggard, I get to tell him stories, because they go, yeah, we saw, Buck and Merle, 2 days apart, and they were in Mississippi, and it was just, so you get to hear these stories, and 99.99% of them are very positive and stuff. Every once in a while you hear something like, well, they should have played longer or something like that. And it was like, gosh, I can't remember a show back then, being a kid, that I wasn't ready to leave, because they were long. They didn't, they played until they thought it was time to stop. But these shows are a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun. And the reason for the shows are people like you guys and putting them on and promoting them and talking about them and that kind of stuff. And so, we appreciate it a lot. And that's what keeps this thing going. That's that drive that people want to see the show. They want to see and it's nice to say they want to see Buck Owens' son, but I don't think that's as much as they want to feel it, and if I can make them feel it, then that's what I get. And that's what makes it. And it's the people that make it. And my dad and Merle and Johnny Cash and George Jones and all these guys, they knew that's who made them, was the people. It wasn't about fame or fortune. That just came along with it. It was the people that made them. And that's why a lot of these guys, after the shows, they'd go out and talk to people. And until it got to the point where they couldn't, because they were pretty much mauled,
Right.
But for the most part, especially the last 10 years of my dad's life, he would come off the stage at the Crystal Palace in Bakersfield there, and he did nothing except talk to people. And the reason for that is because he knew the reason why the Palace was there for so long was because of them showing up. And that's the big thing. And that's the big thing for me is when we can tie you guys in with the people, and it all gets put in a package, and you get to go and do all these shows all over the place, us traveling to, Texas and Utah and Arizona and all these in Nashville and stuff. It's the only way that happens is to keep talking about it, and people talk about it and stuff. So that's how it is and stuff. And we really do appreciate you guys.
Well, that means a lot, to me and to the people that listen to this and the people that come to your shows, because I do think there are times where certain artists can lose sight of that, your listeners, your fans ultimately are, the lifeblood of your career, and that you can't lose sight of that, that appreciation for it. So that means a lot to me to hear that, I never got to see your dad live. I wish that I could have, but I appreciate that you're even carrying on that part of it, not just the music, but just the appreciation of it, because I do think that is a vital, vital part of keeping all of this moving forward.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, if you think back on it and everything else, and you think of how many times we heard a song and it went number one, and then those people disappear. They just disappeared. Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's about the hits and stuff, but a lot of times people forget where they come from, just because they got a number one hit and stuff like that. When you get to here would be a pretty good story about it. If you are somebody that got 60 hits like George Strait, you've made it. You're okay. but you know who made you, you know, and he knows, and he says it all the time. It was because of the people, and he says it all the time, and that's why, because some of his hits are pretty laid back. They're pretty, you know, just slow and relaxed and everything else. But that was just him. You know, he's Gentleman George Strait. I mean, that's, you know, that's who he is. But I think it's true. I think that the appreciation to the fans and the people showing up for these shows, and I think that you're correct. It had, if you showed that much appreciation toward people, they will come, whether it was a hit or not. And they'll come back. And we already have shows that's been rebooked because they want us back. And I, you know, I'd look and I'd go, well, we do the same show. He said, well, you just change a couple songs. And I'm going, well, that's pretty easy. We can change a bunch of songs. But it's nice to hear that and stuff. It really is. And we continue.
Yeah. You know, I think for me as a listener and as a person who has, you know, has spent a lifetime playing and singing music, I think the hallmark of a good country song and the hallmark of a good country singer comes down to two things, and it's honesty and sincerity. And I think that that is important on the song, it's important on the stage, and it's important off the stage. Yeah. And I think that if you carry that as your mission statement, it will connect with an audience. It will keep people coming back to shows. It will keep venues to continue booking you, and it'll keep people listening to your music. So yeah, I just applaud that's what your mission is, and that you're continuing to do that.
Well, you learn that stuff. You know, he was very gracious to people, and if there's one thing that I want to be remembered for is that I was kind. And I think that word kind, you can put all kinds of stuff into it and go on and stuff. And I think, but it is about the people and stuff. But that's why this thing is going so good. You know, we're releasing Act Naturally together and together again after that. But I look right behind you and I'm looking at the Beatles. And
there's Ringo.
and it's funny because I'll try to make this fast so I don't get caught up on it. But they got to do Act Naturally. Ringo heard Act Naturally by my dad, and he goes, "Scott, I want to do that song, you know." And they say, "Are you crazy? That's a country song." And they said, "It can be any kind of song we want, you know." And they kept it pretty true to where it was and stuff. And of course, they kept the lyrics, but they called after it, and because it went number one, and I don't know, I keep hearing different days and stuff, but like it went number one in like 11 or 12 days. It was something silly, you know. But everything they touched was like gold. It didn't matter. But it was the fastest single, I think, and it's ever been recorded or something. But
wow.
But what was crazy is then the management called up my dad's manager, Jack McFadden, and said they want to know if it's possible that they could get every release that you do after you release it, could it be sent over to them? And they go, well, why? And they said, well, because it went number one in a few days and stuff, and we would like to do that again, you know. They would play a few of his songs on stage and stuff like that, but Act Naturally was always in their set. And they did them well. And then they re-released it in 1992, did a video, him and Ringo did a video, and it's on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I have seen it. Yes,
it is funny. It is funny watching Ringo get beat up, and my dad's over there, you know, with the women, of course, and he's getting thrown across the bar and stuff. It was a crazy video. You got to go and see it. But anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love. You know, I love every version. Of course, Buck, with your dad's version was the first one I ever heard. Then I heard the Beatles version of it, and then I just, a few days ago heard your version of it. I absolutely love it. You sound great. I love how you're honoring the tradition, but also still, you know, it has your fingerprint on it, which I really appreciate too. And sure. It sounds just everything from the vocal to the playing to the production. Yeah, it's a great sounding track. So my applause to you for how well that turned out.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. It's released today, and then we'll do Together Again. We'll be in October. Then we have, we actually are going to do for the first time a Christmas song. We're going to do Santa Looked a Lot Like Daddy. And that will come out toward the latter part of November for a Christmas song and stuff. And then, of course, we're doing an album. We're hoping that it'll be ready to go out in March. And but you can go and listen to a few songs on our website. It's JohnnyOwensMusic.com, or it's Johnny Owens and the Bakersfield Sound. Any of those will get you over to it and stuff. And you can look at the bio and things like that. And then 2027, they'll start posting stuff of where we're going and what we're doing and stuff. And hopefully it works out and we get a bunch of shows and stuff. And I think the reason we'll get shows are people like you and stuff, Brad. And again, I'm going to say it again. All you guys that are doing these interviews and helping us and stuff, it's people don't realize that it takes time and effort, and we do. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that. And, and just personally, I mean, I grew up, my dad was the biggest Merle Haggard fan in the world and kind of, taught me about the Bakersfield Sound. And I was a teenager in the 90s, and back in the days of, you could go buy box sets of CDs of people. And I remember being a teenager and buying a Buck Owens box set and really digging into those, Second Fiddle and all those,
Sure.
all those great early tunes. And then I understood your dad's relationship with Don Rich and how they were just like an extension of each other as singing and musician partners. And then I discovered the Live at Carnegie Hall album that's turning 60. I can't believe it, which in my opinion is the greatest live album that's ever been recorded, in my opinion. It's just unbelievable. So this music is part of my DNA as your dad, as part of your, you're part of his DNA.
Sure.
It is part of who I am as a musician. So, I take pride in getting to spread the word continuously about how important this music is to the American songbook. That it is so important. Yeah.
Well, it's an honor. It really is an honor for me to keep my dad's name alive and everything else, but to do Buck and Merle, throw in a little Dwight and throw some Hee Haw stuff around and stuff. It makes it for a lighter show, and people like it, and it's uplifting, and then the people themselves make it just that much more and stuff. But the reason behind it is just to keep that Bakersfield sound. The two different things of which I've been asked several times, what's the difference between Bakersfield Sound and the Nashville Sound and stuff? And it's pretty simple. I mean, Nashville was very polished. It was very smooth. It was the Roy Rogers stuff, Gene Autry stuff. It was very smooth. Even Eddie Arnold, very smooth. And the Bakersfield Sound was a twist on that. My dad loved all those guys and loved music. It wasn't that he didn't like the music; he just wanted to do himself. He wanted to do his own. Merle wanted to do his own. Red Simpson and Tommy Collins and Wynn Stewart and all these guys that were coming out of Bakersfield and stuff, and Freddie Hart and Johnny Paycheck was there. And so these guys wanted to put their own twist on it, their own music to it. And the Fender Telecasters came into play with Don Rich. Don Rich actually got to teach my dad a little bit, and Don Rich was a fiddle player. He wasn't a guitar player. But he became one of the best guitar players ever, behind somebody like Roy Clark or something like that. But the thing about it is he could play the fiddle, he could sing, he could play the guitar. My dad said it 1,000 times that the reason why he had so many hits was because of Don Rich, and everybody knew it, whether he said it or not. And so I think all this music is people still want to hear it. That evolution is coming back. That traditional type of sound, people are liking it better. It's more of a sit down and listen to the story again. The pop country. I love country music and everything else. But I like the traditional country music. I like the stories behind it. Merle Haggard was phenomenal at it. You know, those ballads and stuff that him and Marty Robbins, was phenomenal. My dad wasn't a ballad type of guy. He was more in your face type of guy. And, was Sam's Place and Tiger by the Tail and these kind of songs and Merle and Marty Robbins and people like them, they would tell those stories, those Western stories or those train stories or, whatever kind of story that they were on and stuff. And it's phenomenal. If you go back and start listening to some of it, these new guys that are coming out are grasping little bits and pieces of that kind of stuff. And I think it's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, I agree. When you hear recordings of of Buck playing as a singer and instrumentalist and as a songwriter, do you hear it first as a musician or as his son, or do you hear it as a piece of country music history, or is it a little bit of all of those?
I think it's probably a little bit of each. I think at the beginning, my dad never heard me sing. I've only been doing this.
I read that you didn't sing while he was with us.
No, it was about 8 years after he passed that we were sitting. I was fortunate enough to be on the beach with some of my friends, and we're all in a big circle, and the fire is going and stuff, and they bring out a couple of guitars, and they couldn't play very well. Don't get me wrong, but they were having fun and stuff. And they said, "Why don't you sing? We've heard you sing, to the radio. You sang great, And I said, I don't know. Singing in front of people is a little different than singing to the radio,
Yeah.
But they said, well, let's try to learn Act Naturally. And they didn't know how to do it unless they just listened to the song and tried to find out where the chord was. Because they play in a garage. They didn't know what a key was and what went with a key and stuff. And nor did I.
Yeah.
I didn't know about music. I knew about ranches. I ran ranches all my life for my dad and stuff. And we grew alfalfa and cattle and almonds and stuff. And so, I didn't know this music stuff was like, okay, he sings and he's on Hee Haw and okay, great. So I've been learning all these years what it is, what music is and what it's about and how to do it and everything else. But, you're right. It took a little piece here and there and everything else. And then finally realizing, I went through a lot of people, a lot of musicians, and some of them great, some of them not so great, but they were all had their heart in it. But you have to figure out who meshes with who and what that sound like and everything else. And it took me almost 8 years, and I've had this band now together for 4.5 years, and they are the stuff. They know. And they've listened to all of my dad's stuff, all of Merle's stuff, a bunch of Dwight's stuff, and Wynn Stewart and Tommy Collins and Harlan Howard's album that my dad did. And I said, listen, if we can do a show like this, and then you pull out the Carnegie Hall, if we do a show like this, it's entertaining. The crowd was in it. If you heard that wasn't a fake crowd. They didn't know how to make a fake crowd clap and yell and scream and stuff. So a lot of it wasn't edited in and stuff like that. The only parts that was edited is when they had those big, huge hard drives. I don't know if you ever got to see the big, hard recorders that they used to have.
Oh, yes.
But it was funny. But it's I think that this music is that evolution again is sort of trying to come back a little bit over here and stuff. And you're always going to have the Luke Bryants and the Jason Aldeans and those guys that are playing that up-tempo pop country, if you want to call it and stuff. They call it country. I call it pop country. You just be true to yourself. And I think that's what we're trying to do and embrace everybody that is helping us. And like people like you letting us come on and do these podcasts and these interviews and stuff. It takes a lot of people and a lot of moving parts to be able to do that. And Brad, we just, you got to be pretty humble about stuff. And I knock on wood a lot, and I embrace everybody that wants to welcome me into their place and their area and stuff. And I think that when we do that, we get to enjoy it more. It's not such a burden to try to work and get up and get a shirt on and get dressed and stuff like that, and be in front of the lights and that kind of stuff. But we're enjoying it and stuff, and we enjoy it more because of people like you and the fans and everything else. So
the new single released, Act Naturally's out, Together Again is coming. It's so good. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And then you have live shows. I mean, just celebrating this music, celebrating this legacy.
Yeah.
And I just can't thank you enough for spending some time with me today, Johnny.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for passing along this legacy of great music and doing it in a really high quality, honest, and respectful way. I appreciate that. And
anytime.
I just wish you all the best. And I can't wait. At some point, I will come and see a show. I want to see it live, experience the multimedia piece of it, and just hear this great music done in a wonderful way. So thank you.
You'll probably hear some stories if you come. You'll probably hear the same stories I'm telling you.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I could never hear these stories enough. So I love it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks again.
I love it. Thank you, Johnny, and best of luck to you. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow or subscribe to the Bandwich Tapes wherever you listen, and consider leaving a rating or review. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.